So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Raven? So let's start the series. Profound inside an apparently unending void, Kurama was frantically siphoning each piece of chakra he had left into his host, after at long last fixing Kagaya. That damn Uchiha rascal had deceived them, some way or another. The immense measures of energy let out of Naruto's Rasengan and Sasuke's Chidori impacting had made a tear in reality, tossing Naruto into a space between aspects. Sadly, this plane of presence was in a real sense attempting to destroy them. Looking frantically for an exit plan, the solid fox detected a bending in the spacetime plane brought about by some sort transient disturbance, diverting his last piece of chakra. Kurama had the option to make a tear sufficiently huge for them to go through, scarcely keeping it open until they were through. Cool up. Wake up. Gah! Naruto thrashed, endeavoring to leap to a guarded position. Nonetheless, as he endeavored to prepare himself on his non-existent right arm, it looked substantially more like a thrashing fish than the prepared champion he was. Moaning, he figured out how to sit up, scowling at the missing appendage, and glance around at the odd structures. Oi, where in the world would we say we are? How might I know? You're the imbecile that shot us into the layered void. Do you have at least some idea how much energy it took to simply keep us alive, also open a gateway into another aspect? Hello? Dislike I told the team to go off the deep end. TSK, he was generally insane, all Uchihas are. Hello, Itachi wasn't genuinely terrible. He killed his whole family in one evening, the fox deadpanned. Message received. All in all, we're in another aspect. We have no clue about how to return home, and I'm feeling the loss of an arm. Am I missing anything? Other than the way that time is by all accounts frozen. No, gracious, and time's frozen. Cool, truly, after all that simply occurred, time breaking didn't appear to be that weird any longer. Thus, what no dash, he was removed by a purple haze shooting past his backstreet, followed intently behind by another, this time dark and orange, obscure. The damnation was that Raven was not having a decent birthday, rather than having the option to partake in the party that her companions had set up, a signal that she furtively delighted in. However, could never tell them. She was being pursued by Robin's evidently undead curve enemy, and that wasn't even the most horrendously terrible part. He wasn't restored by anybody. Good gracious, Trigon, her plainly evil spirit of a dad, had taken him back to stamp her as his entry. After Slade had isolated her from Robin at the congregation, she'd been frantically attempting to get away from him. Flying out from between the structures she'd flown through to get away from his arms of fire, she hollers her mantra, Azarath, Mitri and Zinthos. Utilizing the majority of her excess energy, she pummeled the two structures together, trying to stop him. Taking a gander at the residue surging out, she murmured in alleviation, just to snap up in shock as Slade burst from them in a blast. She wheezed as he handled her, and scarcely had any chance to prepare herself as they crashed on top of a pinnacle. She battled to her feet and attempted to run once more, just for Slade to catch her by her cowl, ripping it off. What you have disguised you will become, he shouts as she tumbled down, uncovering more runes on her presently uncovered back. You have no other decision. No. She charges at him, frantically directing her leftover energy around her to ideally drive him back. Be that as it may, he easily got her hand, dispersing the hook of dark energy. The message will be conveyed, Slade murmured, snatching her other arm. Your fate will be satisfied. Battling against his hold, Raven moaned in torment as the sparkling red runes covered the remainder of her body, tearing the greater part of her garments. Red energy radiated from her eyes as the sun and moon quickly exchanged places while her hair became out. Once finished, Slade delivered his grasp, permitting her to fall to her knees in weariness. She glanced around, just to find that the city had become whole world-destroying ruins, encompassed by an ocean magma. Off somewhere far off, she could see the remnants of Titan's pinnacle, and around the city, everybody, including her companions, had been gone to stone, and oh! She wheezed, stunned. Indeed, Slade hauled out, see it, savor it, view the world you are bound to make. Raven could gaze in dismay as Trigons rose, delivering a stunning thunder. Getting her head in torment, she attempted to impede everything out, and oh! I will not make it happen. This is only a dream. This can't be genuine. She recoiled as she felt a metallic grasp on her shoulders. This is the future, your future. It started the day you were conceived, and nothing can stop it, he expressed in her ear. This will happen, I will ensure it, you will obliterate the world, Raven. It's composed all over yo dash. Konoha Senpu. Slade was intruded on as a sandaled foot banged into his face, pushing him away from Raven. The fresh debut steadied her with his great left arm, not seeing the little flash of dark energy that passed between them at the contact. Hello, are you all right? Raven heard as she went to confront the man. She snapped back, frightened by his appearance. He seemed as though he'd quite recently had to deal with a damn disaster area. His jeans and junk mail shirt were shredded, his face seemed to be mammoth head over and again bounced on it, and he was feeling the loss of an arm. God, it was all the while spilling blood. Seeing her response, Naruto hurried to console her. Hello, it's okay, I won't hurt you. After the hazy spots had surged past, he'd gone to explore, pondering exactly what in the world was moving when time was frozen. When Kurama had informed him that they were both utilizing devilish energy, regardless of whether hers was stifled, he chose to simply watch. Don't misunderstand him, he wasn't tired of the young lady. With his pessimistic inclination detecting, he could see she wasn't detestable. Nonetheless, he scarcely had a new genin of chakra and didn't think he'd be a lot of purpose in an enormous scope battle. His conviction had appeared to be legitimate as he watched her hammer two flippant structures together. Notwithstanding, when the concealed man got tearing her garments going truly, another looked at veiled man. He chose to mediate at any rate, utilizing what little chakra he had left. He'd scaled the pinnacle to find the man snatching her from behind, getting a move from shaggy temples. He'd kicked him away. You won't hurt me? Shouldn't something be said about you? How can you even stand? Raven uniquely yelled in dismay, having immediately disregarded Slade. With all that had occurred, she tracked down it difficult to keep up with her typical command over her feelings. What in Azarath happened to you? Ha, well, it's sort of a boring tale, he threw apprehensively, taking care of his head with his hand. Might we at any point discuss it in the wake of managing the zombie buddy? After hearing the word man, in spite of everything, she needed to fight the temptation to confront Palm. Not another monster kid, please, I can't deal with two of them. She shook her head. Concentration, Slade's getting back up. Yo, zombie man. I must request that you let the charming young lady be. Charming. Even as her eyebrow jerked, Raven felt a weak blush spread across her cheeks. Slade took a gander at him. Truly, he was dazzled by the unusual young fellow. Notwithstanding his serious wounds, he was all the while remaining steadfast with a fighter's air about him. On the off chance that I wasn't serving Trigon, he would have made an extraordinary disciple. For reasons unknown, Naruto felt a shudder creep down his spine. For what reason do I feel like Orochimaru's craving me? Center rascal, that evil energy falling off him isn't his, it's from an exceptionally strong devil. His lord is perilous, particularly in the state we're in. Expecting a battle, he was shocked when the concealed man bounced away, saying we'll meet once more. Huh? I can't help thinking about what he expressed. Turning around to the young lady, purpose to ask what was happening, he stopped, at last getting a decent glance at her face. Unbidden, a blush spread across his face. Cammy, she's flawless. Concentration. This isn't an ideal opportunity to gaze into her lovely eyes. Stand by. Dash. Heh, seems as though that debased elderly person at last got to you. No, I'm not a degenerate. I've opposed Erosenen's impact for a considerable length of time. I won't flop now. While Naruto was conversing with the voice in his mind, Raven was concentrating on him similarly as eagerly, various inquiries flying through her brain. Who is he? For what reason did he help me? Are those stubble marks? Returning to her detects, she inquired, who are you? Waking up from his shock, the man gave her an inconceivably splendid grin that made her cheeks flush. Gracious. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. What's your name? Shocked by his happy demeanor in spite of his wounds, she reluctantly replied, I'm Raven. Ideal to meet you, Raven-chan. He came to advance for a clench hand knock, yet with the emergency evidently finished and his adrenaline gone, he fell, at long last surrendering to fatigue, hearing a shocked Naruto, before the darkness overwhelmed him. After the adolescent, Naruto, imploded, her powers erupted, returning chance to its not unexpected state. She figured out how to get him before he, though only by a very narrow margin, hit the rooftop. A short time later, Robin had appeared. She'd ultimately figured out how to persuade him to carry him to the pinnacle rather than the emergency clinic. Exhausted of the weird man, in any case, he'd got used to him after she let him know how Naruto punted Slade in the face, in the wake of dropping him off in the clinical wing of the pinnacle and guaranteeing he was steady. She'd gone to her space to supplant her garments prior to recuperating him. The kid, Naruto, was a secret. He'd some way or another opposed anything that she'd done to freeze time, saved her from an undead Slade, all while horrendously harmed. It was that last part that had her both befuddled and stressed. In this way, she hastily put on new garments prior to surging down to the clinical ward. "I'm telling you, burglarize, he's human." Full DNA filters, X-beams, and infrared readings return as typical. Then, at that point, how in the world did he get up there? Even better, how could he move after Raven froze time? "Weren't you doing the moving too, companion Robin?" Starfire inquired. "Simply because Raven liberated me from her spell. From everything that she said to me, he just appeared suddenly and kicked Slade in the face." "Man! He punted Slade. Ha 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 ha. That is amazing." Behind them, the entryway opened up and Raven went into the room. "Companion Raven, it is sublime to see that you are safe. Tell me, who is this man?" "His name's Naruto," she answered in her typical vacant. Approaching him, a sparkling blue air wrapped her hands. "Ooh, are you doing your glowy hands thingy to mend him?" Monster Kid inquired. "Indeed." While this was going on, Robin was talking unobtrusively to Cyborg. "Are you certain he's protected?" "Well, he's human, I can let you know that much. However, protected?" "No sign. For what reason would you say you are so stirred up about him?" "All in all, he saved Raven. We know nothing about him, and he simply appears suddenly okay when Slade resurrects peculiar fire sorcery. Doesn't it appear to be somewhat dubious to you?" Back with Raven, she was looking at his body. How can he have such countless scars? One specifically grabbed her eye. Directly over his heart was a clenched hand-estimated scar. She could see it had pierced him profoundly. How could he endure that? Forgetting about it for the occasion, she sat on the edge of the bed and put her hands on his chest, then heaved at the surge of feelings, such a lot of agony and melancholy. It nearly made her cry. However, considerably more remarkable, far marvelous his agony, was trust and love. It was anything but a coordinated love, similar to one could have for their companion, yet a general feeling of adoration coordinated towards everything around him that appeared to sparkle from his actual soul, simply feeling it support her in a way she hadn't felt since she was a kid in her mom's arms back on Azarath. In spite of the solace, it was solid to the point that she yanked back in shock. "Raven, are you okay?" Robin asked, calculating that the kid had done something to her. "You better believe it, I'm fine." After a second to quiet herself, she said, "He simply feels everything so emphatically, it shocked me." "Your meaning could be a little more obvious. Is it true that he is a danger?" "No, he dash." She was cut off by a developed from the bed. Rapidly turning around to him, she watched in awe as his eyes rippled open. Having been awakened by an eruption of energy that appeared to kick off his chakra network, Naruto glanced around, befuddled, until he saw her recognizable face. "Oi, Raven-chan. Where could we be?" "We're in the drugged narrows of Titan's pinnacle. How are you conscious?" "With your wounds you ought to have been oblivious for a couple of days in any event." I've forever been a quick healer. All in all, what's Titan's pinnacle?" "You don't have any idea what Titan's pinnacle is?" "No, I just arrived. I don't actually have a ton of experience with this spot." Presently, this aroused her interest. The vast majority essentially knew who the adolescent Titans were, regardless of whether they live in Bounce City. "So where are you from?" "Goodness, I'm from another aspect," Naruto answered nonchalantly. "Numbskull. What? We can trust her. You in a real sense just met her, he deadpanned. So? She's great, you simply believe she's hot. Better believe it's stand by no. Naruto. Wah. Looking into, he was met with an irritated Raven. At last. Raven snapped in unsettling, I'd been attempting to get visit consideration for more than a moment. Her demeanor moved to one of concern. Would you say you are all right? Gracious, definitely heartbroken. I was simply contending with Kurama. Who's Kurama? Numbskull, the fox rehashed. Goodness, how well he believed her. He wasn't anticipating educating her regarding Kurama, of course. She had satanic energy of her own, so she presumably wouldn't respond too gravely. Kurama's the fox devil fixed in my stomach, he answered nonchalantly to cause it to appear as though it was anything but nothing to joke about. In light of how she pulled back marginally, he wasn't too fruitful, yet you can definitely relax. He added quickly, he's cool. He's cool? Raven answered suspiciously. Definitely. The furball used to take steps to eat me a great deal, yet we're companions now, he said with an eye grin suggestive of Kakashi. Furball. I'll show you furball. Kurama cried angrily. I was simply attempting to cause you to appear to be less undermining. Naruto contemplated. She checked out at him with a kind of wary expectation. All in all, you don't feel that they're all shrewd? Obviously not. They're like individuals. They're not intrinsically great or fiendishness. Morio and the Jubi were rats, however evil presences like you and the Biju are great. Raven froze at that. What do you intend to actually say like me? How could he know? For what reason would he say he fears me? Naruto shifted his head, looking confounded. You're not an evil presence? When it's all said and done, you have devilish energy. Are you a holder then, at that point? Raven really wanted to unwind somewhat at his casual inquiry. He was asking that like he was simply discussing the climate. No, I'm not. Coming to a choice, she proceeded, I'm a Hanyu. She intellectually prepared for dismissal. For him to fear her like the priests of Azarath did, she truly shouldn't have irritated. Truly? How does that function? She grinned, glad that he didn't appear to mind, yet additionally confounded at the inquiry. Your meaning could be a little more obvious. Well, how'd your folks, you know? He followed off clumsily. What? So frightened by this disclosure, Naruto started shouting without holding back. Raven staggered back and tumbled from the bed. Out of the way, Starfire yanked in shock, yet kept up with her grasp on different titans, whom she was limiting for reasons unknown. You're a young lady. How? I mean, you sound like a person. In a split second, acknowledging what he said, and dreading a Sakura-like response, he immediately retreated. Stand by, I didn't mean it like that. You have an exquisite voice. Furthermore, Wahahaha, Kurama cried, unfit to hold it in any longer. You really thought I was a young lady? Raven watched the odd showcase, developing progressively befuddled as Naruto's frenzy went to seethe. The damnation Kurama. That was actually a major buzzkill entertaining. By the sage I can't relax. Naruto's looming yelling coordinate with his as yet wailing accomplice was cut off by Raven. Naruto, quit hollering. She was irritated that he was overlooking her again for his, clearly female, evil spirit companion, for reasons unknown, that chafed her. Goodness, sorry, Naruto apologized, his disposition pulling an entire 180. Kurama was being a jerk, he moped. Her aggravation fought with her interest over what the fox might have done as she inquired. How did she respond? He persuaded me he was a young lady. Since I considered him a furball. Which he is. The last remark was more focused on expressed furball than Raven, however he was excessively caught up with chuckling to mind. As his yelling at long last started to check out, her disturbance gave way to merriment at the blonde's adversity, and she began snickering. The chuckling before long transformed into out-and-out giggling, joining Kurama. This, more than anything, surprised Starfire enough that she delivered her grasp on different titans. As they generally gazed in shock at their partner, Fellow's monster kid murmured, Raven snickering. I don't trust it, Cyborg murmured in dismay as he started a framework-wide sweep of his frameworks. Robin just gazed on in shock. Radiant. Is this not a magnificent romance? Starfire's interjection woke up everybody from their doubt, or chuckling for Raven's situation, to gaze at the red-haired outsider. Romance! Raven yelled, catching Naruto's eye. Romance, he murmured in disarray. Indeed. Starfire affirmed, apparently oblivious to the Raven's shock. Goodness, this is a most wondrous event. We should set up a Tamaranian blowout to celebrate. As her colleagues withered with sickening apprehension, Raven faltered, we're not seeking Starfire. Starfire flattened at this. She'd been so certain they were involved. She'd never seen her companion so vivified previously, and her powers weren't in any event erupting. She realized that her companion had zero control over them when energized, so when this secret kid had appeared and apparently permitted her to communicate her thoughts unafraid, she'd been delighted. Thus, she'd snatched her companions and covered their mouths to hold them back from destroying any second they could have. However, obviously, they weren't pursuing. A grin shaped. They weren't seeking yet. However, Naruto, was it? Now that he was liberated from Starfire's grasp, not that he disapproved being there in any case, Robin concluded that it was the ideal opportunity for him to find solutions. First, do you mind communicating in English? Truly, why both of them were bantering in various dialects was past him. Raven-chan, what's he talking about? Truly, was Raven the one in particular that could talk ordinarily? She looked between them, befuddled. What are both of you referring to? Now that the others were near, she found it more straightforward to slip into her standard dull voice. She inactively asked why it was so troublesome previously. Robin took a gander at her strangely. I want to address him, and he clearly comprehends English since he was conversing with you. While they were talking, Naruto found opportunity to at long last notice the others in the room. First, there was a little green buddy with teeth. Because of his wife's preparation, he could feel normal energy moving through him. He's not a savvy, I can tell that much. Heck, Raven's the only one with working chakra pathways. It resembles he's a piece of nature. Then there was a man that seemed as though he was from Kyumo, or he would, aside from he was shrouded in metal, he sort of helped him to remember Sasori, or perhaps Nagato's Azure away. Then, at that point, there was the young lady in spandex. She looked shockingly like his mother. He just trusted she didn't have her attitude. Signal shiver, at long last. There was the veiled kid, truly, with the cover, gravity-opposing hair, and quality of order. He was half persuaded that he was Kakashi's between-layered love child. Odd, Naruto thought. For what reason would they say they are talking in two distinct dialects? Hello, Raven-chan, could you at any point advise him to talk in natural? He clearly knows it. Presently, dissimilar to a specific blonde in the room, Raven was a speedy mastermind, and had the option to sort out the thing was going on. UHG. She squeezed the extension of her nose in dissatisfaction. Naruto, you are hearing me in your language, right? He gestured, befuddled concerning why she asked that. Robin, while I'm conversing with him, am I communicating in English, or am I communicating in his language? She asked, despite the fact that she was almost certain she actually needed affirmation. English, he answered, and he could think about where she was going with this. Are you saying that? Indeed, Naruto and I hear each other in our local tongues, while to every other person we are communicating in various dialects. For reasons unknown, she wanted to add something to her assertion. Not seeing any damage, she did as such. How problematic. Naruto giggled at the amount she seemed like a Nara. She'd presumably coexist well with Shikamaru. He quit chuckling. For reasons unknown, the idea irritated him. Why, Kurama, in the event that Raven-chan's not speaking essential, how do I have any idea what she's talking about? Do you have at least some idea why? Robin asked. She shook her head. Does he? He asked, demonstrating Naruto. I question it. Turning around, she inquired, hello, Naruto. He didn't answer. In light of the lustrous search in his eyes, she figured he was conversing with Kurama about it. After his eyes recaptured clearness, she inquired. Anyway, what did Kurama say? Kurama, different titans pondered. He considered how she realized he was conversing with the Biju gracious definitely. Obviously whatever Fuinjutsu marks zombie team put on you put your energy in a condition of, Kurama? He asked, having failed to remember the word he utilized. Transition, definitely, motion, and clearly a smidgen of it entered my chakra network, making a sort of mental bond. Though before she was recently irritated, presently Raven felt a dash of dread. Her psyche was hazardous, for anybody. Naruto, how solid is this bond? On the off chance that you're stressed over me hearing your considerations, you can definitely relax. Kurama said it's scarcely sufficiently able to defeat the language boundary for all intents and purposes. She let out a murmur of help at that. What bond? She heard Robin inquire, and who's Kurama? Raven glanced back at different titans. Monster Kid and Cyborg looked confounded, Robin looked concerned, and Starfire appeared to be peculiarly blissful. In any event, for her purposes, anything that Slade did to me made my powers briefly temperamental, and when Naruto got me, a portion of my energy converged with his, making a frail mental bond that allows us to see one another. Concerning Kurama, she followed off, taking a gander at Naruto, being a half-evil presence. She knew that it was so difficult to uncover something to that effect to other people. Truly, she was shocked that he'd told her so promptly. Naruto, seeing her unasked inquiry, simply grinned and shrugged in consent. In spite of said consent, Raven didn't actually want to persuade her group that a devil wasn't a danger. So she split the difference. He's a fox soul fixed inside Naruto. Don't ask, she added, removing Robin's forthcoming inquiry. A piece annoyed that she'd remove him from getting some information about the soul, he went to Cyborg. Indeed, what language is he speaking? It seems like Japanese. Cyborg, who had his arm show appearing, answered, no doubt, it has a comparative construction, however the words are totally unique. The main thing the PC comprehends are the honorifics. Honor what's its? Monster Kid inquired. Honorifics, they're similar to Mr. or Mrs. that you add onto a name, however there are significantly more of them. When he was talking session the why he could converse with Raven, he referenced team, and that implies knave. I'm almost certain he was discussing Slade there. What might be said about Chan? Raven asked. She was interested, he'd added it to her name a few times. Cyborg, however, looked stressed. He didn't know how she'd respond, and he was stressed over the youngster. You don't want to be aware. Cyborg, she cautioned. Within, however, she was stressed. Was it an affront or the like? She thought he enjoyed her, he appeared to be adequately pleasant to her. However, is there any good reason why Cyborg wouldn't have any desire to tell her? You truly don't. He whined, attempting to save Naruto from her rage. All things considered, most folks that hit on her wound up in a block facade. Tragically, his endeavors were to no end, as dark energy encompassed him and hauled him by the arm to where she could peruse the presentation there. Chan, a pet name signifying charming, frequently utilized for close female companions or darlings. As Raven read resoundingly, she felt her face warming up. She delivered Cyborg, permitting him and different titans to move in an opposite direction from the prospective more harmed blonde while petitioning God for his quick recuperation. Tending to Naruto, actually red in the face, she inquired, is that what Chan signifies? The titans were shaking their heads at him from despite her good faith, beseeching him also deny it, for the well-being of he. Neglectful of their advance notice, he gestured, grinning, definitely, you're truly beautiful, and you're dealing with me which makes us companions, so I call you Chan. His grin fell after a second. Except if you don't need me to, obviously, he said, grimacing. Raven felt her heart skirt a thump when he called her pretty, then, at that point, felt it fall when he proposed to quit referring to her that as, no. She answered, a piece hurriedly, it's fine, she proceeded, more settled. Naruto's grin returned full power as the other's jaws dropped to the ground, shaking his head to clear it. Monster Kid yelled, man. Who is this person? First punts Slade, then, at that point, he converses with Raven in her with a psyche connect thingy. He's moved by a fox phantom, and in particular he played with Raven. He's as yet alive. Humiliated and needing to steer the conversation in a different direction, Raven stifled out, "Indeed, he's likewise from another aspect." Raven lethargically sat up in her bed, seeing her morning timer, 8:37. Typically, she would have gotten up before to watch the dawn prior to reflecting. As it was, she figured she actually had a chance to contemplate prior to getting some tea. She grinned affectionately, recalling the earlier evening. After everybody had settled down and presented themselves, they chose to permit Naruto to remain at the pinnacle, since he had not a chance back to his home aspect. Whenever she'd unintentionally referenced that it was her birthday, Naruto had demanded observing. She'd at first denied, provoking him to ask different titans for help persuading her. She chuckled delicately, recollecting how he'd attempted to emulate his words as the others unsearched in disarray. Ultimately, however, he made himself clear, and together they figured out how to persuade her observe. It had been shockingly fun, regardless of whether she needed to play interpreter. She scowled, recalling how he'd been for the most part mended when she left for bed. Ordinarily, she'd be glad to see her companion. Indeed, her companion recuperating, yet the sum of everything on her mind was the means by which harmed he'd probably been prior to protecting her. With how quick he mended, he should have either been close to death something like a day prior to meeting up with them, or harmed only minutes prior. Yet, he actually gambled with himself to help her. Passing through the entryway prompting the rooftop, she stopped after a couple of steps, having at long last detected the figure at the edge. He was standing by that she'd missed him from the get-go. She perceived his stance. He was pondering. No, there was something else to it besides that. She could feel the progression of strong energies based on him, as though he was going about as a course for it. Her eyes extended in acknowledgement. "You're not kidding," she inhaled. Sages, in spite of mainstream thinking, were not simply shrewd old vagabonds. Sages were individuals who had become so on top of nature that they became one with it, in this manner ready to employ its power. Not normal for the green that toxin ivy and marsh thing use. Sages were not restricted to the energies of plants, rather they had the option to draw upon energy from each part of nature. As he went to confront her, she saw that his eyes had changed, gone were the shimmering sapphire spheres. All things being equal, yellow frog-like eyes gazed back at her, encompassed by a red pigmentation. The previous evening, rather than resting, he'd gone into his mindscape to consult with Kurama about their circumstance. As per him, they were caught in this aspect. While the frogs could switch bring him to Mount Mayaboku, they couldn't gather him back to the essential countries. The calling jutsu works like an elastic band. One end is secured in your home aspect, and the opposite end can be extended to another domain. While calling an amphibian, whose anchor is at Mount Mayaboku, you stretch their elastic band and anchor it to your aspect with their chakra. When their chakra runs out, it delivers the elastic band, sending them back to their domain. Consequently, why they needn't bother with one more gathering to return home. With Naruto's stores, he might have remained at Mayaboku for quite a long time. Tragically, you can extend one more's elastic band while in your moored aspect. In the event that you attempted, if not, you would deliver your own prior to finishing the jutsu. When Mama had brought him home to fight torment, she wasn't really calling him. All things considered, she delivered his elastic band and involved her area as a reference point for his appearance. When there, he'd quickly called different frogs to battle with him. Since the ones in particular who had the option to call him were moored at Mount Mayaboku, they couldn't really return him once again to the essential countries. Notwithstanding, he could send messages home through them. By giving the frogs a message, they could give it to the slugs, who could switch gather Tsunade and give it to her. She, thus, could give the slugs a message to provide for him through the frogs, that is to say, expecting she'd been liberated structure the boundless Tsukuyami. He needed to stand by till morning to acquire enough chakra to call Dad. In any case, they had chosen to utilize Sage Mode, both in light of the fact that they didn't have the foggiest idea the amount it would take to extend Dad's elastic band to this new aspect, and furthermore to assist Kurama with recuperating his chakra quicker. His crazy stores would typically assume control north of a year to top off. Nonetheless, by supporting it with regular energy, the standby could be basically as short as a while, inasmuch as they didn't utilize it to an extreme. He'd been going to bring Dad when he's detected Raven strolling towards the rooftop with his improved faculties, and had chosen to hang tight for her. "You know about Senjutsu?" Naruto asked, amazed. Indeed, however, a great many people here think they are savvy elderly people men. Indeed, while the wide range of various sages I met were old, just Mama, Dad, and Super Gramps were savvy, the other two, well, one was feeble and Erosen and was a sick person, he laughed, and Raven was interested about the affection in his voice. He presumably shouted me for calling him that. All things considered, nobody needs to be known as a degenerate, she answered casually as she plunked down close to him. He didn't, yet not for the explanation you'd think, he snickered once more, confounding Raven. When I initially met him, I called him a sick person, you understand what he told me? She shook her head, utilizing his best Jiraiya voice. He roared, I'm not only a degenerate, I'm a super deviant. Raven, for the second time in years, absolute snickered. To Naruto, it was a lovely sound. Back in the pinnacle, different titans shuddered, feeling an unsettling influence in the normal request of things. As her chuckling subsided, he proceeded, in spite of his debased nature, Jiraiya was an extraordinary individual. He resembled a dad to me. However, he talked with just affection. Raven sought his utilization of past tense. Was, she inquired. Naruto peered down, a miserable grin gracing his elements, yet arriving at his frog-like eyes. Better believe it, he passed on how he resided, looking for harmony. He was killed by his previous understudy, Nagato, Raven panted, yet detecting that he wasn't done, didn't hinder him. Naruto turned and watched out towards the strait. He lost somebody valuable to him and got lost. He felt that torment was the best way to harmony, distorting Jiraiya's lessons. I truly scholarly senjutsu so I could overcome him, and when I at long last did, I needed to choose whether or not to kill him. I needed to, I truly did. He removed perhaps of my most valuable individual, then gone after my home, yet I realized it wasn't what Jiraiya, so I let him go. He turned around to her, and she could see a tear shaping in his actually yellow eyes. And you know what, I'm happy I did. This stunned Raven. Assuming it had been her, she presumably would have killed him. Regardless of being a legend, he removed his dad on the holy Ed blood. Since I did, he had the option to make up for himself. He gave his life to save a many individuals that he had harmed. He put his confidence in me to discover a sense of reconciliation where he had fizzled. Naruto. She let out delicately, this kid, no this man, had experienced so a lot, and she had an inclination this wasn't even 50% of it, but he was still so blissful. He hadn't become fatigued or cut off like such countless different legends who had endured had. I'm certain he'd be pleased with you, she said. She realized he didn't need an expression of remorse for raising old recollections. He might have halted out of the blue, however, for reasons unknown, he'd confided in her enough to tell her this, to give her access to his past. She was happy he did. Recalling all that had occurred since Agony's intrusion, particularly a specific interruption jutsu against Kaguya, Naruto laughed. I'm certain he would, he concurred. Presently, enough discouraging stories. I must call Dad before Sage Mode runs out. In fact, with Kurama's assistance, he could keep up Sage Mode endlessly, yet he was right now resting, and he won't awaken him for this. Surprised as he snatched her hand and pulled her to her feet with him, she inquired, Dad, as in the wise dad? He gestured, do you maintain that I should leave? He shook his head, nah, I'm certain he'd very much want to meet you. He made a stride back, not understanding, not at all like Raven, how close they'd been. Presently, stand back a smidgen. He raised his great arm to his mouth before an idea happened to Raven. Pause. He halted. Is that right? In the event that you can bring him here, does that mean he can gather you back home? For reasons unknown, that thought didn't agree with her. No, it's a piece confounded, yet he can't. I can bring him here, and he can call me to his home for a brief time frame. However, he can't gather me back to my home. Gracious, she answered, inquisitive with respect to why she was cheerful at that response. He gestured and chomped his thumb, not exactly shocking Raven seeing as how most gathering included blood or the like. He played out a couple of seals with his hand, then pummeled it on the ground with a call of the Kuchios no Jutsu. Naruto delivered Sage Mode as the smoke cleared, uncovering an old frog in a shroud. He was about midsection high with a spike of hair at the rear of his head, a goatee, and the thickest eyebrows she had at any point seen. Often another aspect, two spandex-clad men yelled about a test to their young foreheads. He sort of helped her to remember that green outsider from that film Monster Kid had constrained her to watch. What was his name once more? Yoga or something like that? It didn't exactly make any difference. She was shocked when it communicated in a strange language. Who brought me? He saw them, stunned. Naruto kid, you're alive. Hello, Dad. How've you, honey BOW? Naruto scoured the developing bump on his head while the frog remained over him, stick close by. What was that for? He yelled in ire. That is for not summoning me prior, you had us concerned. As an appearing bit of hindsight, he whacked him once more. Ow. What was that one for? That one was from Mama. Could you have liked to bring her so she could hit you, all things being equal? Recalling her rolling pin of torment, he shivered. No, I wouldn't, he said, crushed. Great kid. He went to Raven, and who's this lovely girl? He asked cheerfully, which before long went to a declaration of loathsomeness. This better not be the reason you didn't bring us prior. You are not transforming into a degenerate like Jiraiya kid. Mama would kill us both. What are you referring to, Dad? He asked, prior to becoming red as his importance sank in. Obviously not. Are you insane? I just met her. Additionally, it could never get to Mama. Bachan and Sakura would kill first. Then they'd figure out how to bring me back and rehash it. Out of the way, Raven just watched the odd scene. This is the very thing the others want to watch us talk, right? Naruto stopped, recalling his companion. Oi Dad, this is Raven-chan. He bounced over to her. Ideal to meet you, Raven. I am Fukasaku. However, you can simply call me Dad like every other person. Naruto, realizing that she was unable to grasp him, interpreted. He said his name's Fukasaku, yet that you ought to call him Dad. The old frog took a gander at him questioningly until Raven answered. It is a distinction to meet you, sage Dad. She gave a little bow, feeling somewhat idiotic for bowing to a frog. What's she talking about, Naruto kid? Also, why's she talking like that? Well, Dad, individuals here communicate in an alternate language. I can figure out her, and she can grasp me. However, every other person is unaware of everything going on. With respect to what she said it was a distinction to meet you, sage Dad. At long last. Some regard. He shouts, prior to inquiring, so where could here be? Furthermore, what happened to your arm? You should plunk down, Dad. It's a boring tale, he said while plunking down and motioned for Raven to go along with them. He let Dad know how his last conflict with Sasuke impelled him between aspects, how he arrived here, and all the other things that had occurred, meanwhile interpreting anything remarks Dad made for Raven, as well as the other way around. Dad laughed. Just you, Naruto kid, just you. What is going on with that? He yelled, neglecting to decipher. You're continuously getting into the most ludicrous circumstances. Well, when has anything worked out as expected for you? I suppose you're correct, he answered, prior to telling Raven the essence of the discussion. Presently, with that over, he posed the inquiry that had been tormenting his considerations yet been too terrified to even think about inquiring. Dad, he asked, more serious than Raven had at any point seen him, what occurred after I left? Is everybody alright? Don't you stress, Naruto kid, everybody's fine. Naruto let out a moan of alleviation. It seems like you truly broke through to Sasuke, after you vanished. He was evidently racked with culpability. He dispersed the boundless Tsukuyami with that eye of his prior to handing himself over. Everybody's concerned about you, yet nobody truly believes you're dead. Naruto lets out an unsteady breath as the trepidation he's been clutching since his appearance left him. They're alright, he let out in a hoarse murmur. He'd been daring to dream that this would be the situation, yet with how Sasuke had been acting, he dreaded the most horrendously terrible. Nonetheless, he did what he excelled at. He bore that aggravation and continued on. Notwithstanding, it had still weighed vigorously on his heart, and with that weight presently gone, he was overpowered with feeling. They're all right. He yelled this time, and jumped up, carrying Raven with him. He embraced her and turned in a circle prior to acknowledging what he was going, putting her back down and rapidly stepping back. he began saying sorry. Humiliated, she figured out how to get out. It's fine, Naruto, while she actually didn't know all that had occurred. From what she'd realized during their discussion, the greater part of his reality had been caught in an endless deception or some likeness thereof. How he'd remained so bright was past her. Realizing that they were free, unquestionable necessity been an enormous help, she figured for that reason she wasn't beating him into the ground with her powers for embracing her like that. Before anybody could say anything more, the way to the rooftop pummeled open. Yo BB. You up here? Cyborg called, glancing around. Yo Raven, Naruto, you folks seen Dash? He then, at that point, saw Dad. Presently, for all intents and purposes, more often than not when he sees a huge green creature, it's normally Monster Kid. Tragically, this was not one of those times. There you are BB. We must go. I got Robin in on the stankball game. Took some shakedown, however I did it. He hollered, snatching Dad. Unhand me metal man. Dad hollered, whacking him on the head with his stick. From the beginning, lifted up a finger. That is no joke, he said shakily, prior to falling back to the ground with twirls in his great eye. After Dad left with a directive for somebody called Tsunade, whom she learned was the one Naruto lovingly called Bachan, Raven, and Naruto went for breakfast, the still oblivious cyborg drifting behind them with her wizardry. As they street the lift, he saw something. Did you trim your hair? Indeed, she answered. She'd done it the previous evening prior to nodding off, not having any desire to manage the knot in the first part of the day. It suits you, he remarked, making her blush. It truly did. She had looked great with her long hair, however this Heim-style trim truly appeared to accommodate her. It made her significantly more lovely. Stand by. What? Fortunately for them, their blushes had subsided before the lift stored them in the fundamental room, which comprised of a kitchen, the order region, the television, and a perfect view over the city. After entering, 3 sets of inquisitive eyes locked on them. What befell him? Robin asked, alluding to the as yet drifting cyborg. Raven grinned. He lost a battle with a frog, she said with her standard sarcasm. Robin and Starfire shared befuddled looks as Monster Kid, who had stopped his computer game, burst out chuckling. Ha ha. As the couple went to the kitchen region for some food, after Raven had drifted Cyborg over to the sofa, Starfire saw their clear closeness, and uniquely sneered. While she was as yet gullible in numerous things, sentiment was presently not one of them. When Titan's Pinnacle was first fabricated, she had gone to the store of books to get materials to learn of the Earth culture. One of the books probably had some unacceptable title, however. She'd purchased a book on the shades of dim, captivated that Earth obviously had 50 distinct sorts. When she previously read it, she became red enough that her hair appeared to be fail to measure up. Rapidly concealing it under her bed, she had promised at no point ever to open it in the future. In any case, after Kat had attempted to take Robin, she chose to take a gander at the book one final time for an assistance to charm Robin. When she read it, however, she'd found she very loved it. From that point forward, she had gotten numerous comparable books, however she was mindful so as to conceal them from her partners. Indeed, it's valid, Starfire is a storage room debase, someplace up in paradise. Jiraiya cheers in triumph. Thusly, she's ready to see the fascination between the two, regardless of whether they still up in the air to get them together, both to help her companion and have one less opponent for Robin's warmth. She devised a strategy, drifting over to the pair as they wrapped up setting up their morning meal, or tea for Raven's situation. Starfire honestly inquired companion Raven, might you at any point inquire as to whether we might share the lip contact? Every type of effort shrieks to a stop, just a couple of plates breaking, kindness of some irregular spikes in sorcery, ending the quiet. Everyone's eyes, even the now conscious cyborgs, go to her. Before Raven could answer, Robin hollered, what? Why? Starfire grinned. She had not thought about this. She knew from her perusing that desire could be utilized to assist one with understanding that they had the sentiments, yet had simply intended to utilize it on Raven. Presently, it gave the idea that it had chipped away at Robin too. Pretending that she did not apprehend why he had asked that, she replied, my bodies can apprentice any accent through lip contact, and I ambition to antipodal with acquaintance Naruto. As Robin approved to explain to the seemingly absent conflicting why you can't aloof kiss a guy, Raven cautiously conveyed her appeal to Naruto. As abundant as she, for some reason, awful the idea, she could see the acumen of it. However, his acknowledgement absolutely abashed the Titans, who did not allegation to apperceive his accent to accept him. What? No, not accomplishing that. Nah. He rapidly befuddled his head, his approach out in a resting position. Why not? She asked, confused. Most guys would accord their appropriate arm to kiss her, no pun intended, so why did he refuse? Oh no, don't acquaint me he's gay, she thought, blind of the agnate thoughts active through the added Titans' heads. No added air-conditioned powered kisses. I've already had a toad kiss me to abode me in an apparition apple and about had my anatomy sucked out by addition one, no more. If I'm activity to kiss someone, it's activity to be a nice, non-powered kiss with a babe I like. Naruto denied vehemently. Raven sighed in relief. So you're not gay? She asked for clarification. Naruto shuddered, canonizing how his aboriginal kiss had been taken by a assertive Uchiha, Kami no. Raven smiled at that, admitting she wondered why she cared so much. It wasn't like she anticipation actuality gay was wrong. Wait, your anatomy was about sucked out? That allegation except been one hell of a kiss, she thought, annoyed. Yeah, that Banty was crazier than the snake lady. If I hadn't switched with the Kagebushin, she would accept gotten me. Kami, sometimes I ambition I didn't get their memories, he decrepit that after most part, admitting Raven heard it, admitting not absolutely understanding, she was admiring to apperceive he hadn't enjoyed it. Looking back at her absent teammates, she summed up his response. He said no. Seemed like a accomplished lot added that, Cyborg commented. Yeah, what did he say? Beast Boy questioned excitedly. Turning back to her tea, she replied cryptically, article about a toad and his soul. Beside her, Naruto chuckled, actuality able to assumption why she'd said that. She may adumbrate it, but he could acquaint she was a prankster, if in words instead of action. Oh yeah. Cyborg back angled on Beast Boy and hit him upside the head. Dude. Why'd you do that? He complained, my poor head. He whined as a comically ample breach formed in his eye. That was for beforehand, yo. What do you beggarly, that was for earlier. What's activity on? Naruto asked, abashed as the duo argued. Cyborg thinks that Pa was Beast Boy, so he's accepting revenge for accepting a gape out earlier, she answered. Demography a sip of her tea, but he looks annihilation like Pa. He can change into animals, but they're consistently green, she explained, a fresh anticipation for a moment. She was appealing abiding he'd accomplished that it hadn't been Beast Boy. It was allegedly aloof the arch injury. Really? He commented, appearing abstract for attractive aback at the duo. Should we stop them? Nah, they'll bulk it out, she replied with a smirk, which was alternate abounding force. Please, explain why it is bad to be the old maid? Starfire questioned, not absolutely accepting the game. After Cyborg and Beast Boy bound their differences, Starfire had asserted them all the comedy a bold to bond with their new friend. She had insisted that Naruto and Raven sit together. Raven had planned on researching an adaptation spell for Naruto, but he'd been so aflame already she explained what Starfire capital that she couldn't say no. Raven was currently administration at Akuter with Naruto, seeing as how he couldn't absolutely authority his cards appropriate in comedy with aloof one hand, central his mindscape. The now alive Kurama chuckled silently to himself. He advised reminding Naruto that he could aloof accomplish a acting arm with his altered hinge, but he absentively that he'd rather let Naruto suffer, a fresh accomplish him feel brainless later. It had annihilation to do with the actuality that the brat enjoyed actuality abreast the bisected demon, annihilation at all. Cyborg had offered to anatomy him a backup arm later, but the abstraction of a metal arm aloof reminded him too abundant of Sasori. As Starfire accomplished her question, 3 ample metal altar flew accomplished the window abaft her. Whoa! What was that? Cyborg shouted. Giant worms? Beast Boy questioned. Aloof afresh, the three alter flew aback into view, absolute them to be amplitude ships, with two identical ships' battlefront activity beams at the third. Don't anticipate so, Raven replied dryly. Titans, go. Robin shouted as they all ran out of the room, with Raven boring Naruto abaft them. She didn't apperceive him about as able-bodied as she'd like, but she knew he was a fighter, and that he was an acceptable person. He'd chase whether she told him to break or not. Bigger accept him with them so she could accomplish abiding he didn't overdo it with his injuries. The team, additional one interdimensional shinobi, ran assimilate the roof to get a bigger view. From there, they could see that one address looked agnate to a rocket, while the abate pursuers resembled stingrays. In an absorbing affectation of flying, the rocket accomplished a somersault. Ariel accomplished his enemies. Whoever he is, the guy's an acceptable pilot, Cyborg commented. The sip weaved amid adversary blaze afore ascent up aloft one of the rays, demography it out with accompanying dejected beams. That guy's an abundant pilot, exclaimed Robin. So, should we do something? Naruto asked. We don't apperceive who they are, or who the acceptable guy is, Raven commented. Her acumen fabricated sense, but attractive aback at the others. It was bright they who they were acclaimed for. Just afresh a bolt launched from the rocket, landing on the actual adversary ship. He crawled up the ancillary afore slamming his fists into the aglow red light. Did he aloof booty bottom ward that address with his bald hands? Robin asked in disbelief. Looks like it, Cyborg accepted afore the now smoking address flew accomplished them. Headed bewilderment for the city. Come on man, you can do it. Cyborg encouraged the rider. As it neared the city, he jerked the address off advance to bang in the arid dupe al fresco the city, extenuative the inhabitants. Naruto's account for the man rose. They bound rushed to the bang armpit to analysis on the guy. Aback they arrived. A argent man emerged from the flames. It takes added than a plasmatic abortion to accompany bottom ward Valia, he said. Demography affecting pose. Was he aloof cat and mouse for us to admission to leave the crash? Cause it took us several account to get here. Naruto anticipation with a diaphoresis drop. Starfire took a quick account with an ample camera, the beam blinding him for a second. Oi, where'd she get that? Because I apperceive she didn't accept it earlier. Her bound clothing acutely had no amplitude for it, and where'd it go? He anticipation in confusion, seeing as it was now gone. As Valia absolved appear them, his abandoned address landed badly abaft him. That was some amazing flying, Robin complimented. Thanks. Valia of Renathia, admiring to accommodated you. I'm Robin, and we're the Boyhood Titans. That's Raven, Naruto, Beast Boy dash, he said, pointing to anniversary affiliate in turn. Well, he is blockage with us. I assumption that makes him a acting titan, Raven thought. Should accept asked aboriginal afore introducing him as one though. Cyborg, said actuality affiliated his hand, afraid Valia's hand. Man, you abiding apperceive how to accomplish an entrance. It's all in a day's work. He said, smirking. A chibified Beast Boy, his eyes sparkling, asked you do that every day. If it was possible, the sparkling became alike brighter. The hell? Did he aloof shapeshift into that thing? Naruto wondered. Unfortunately not Kit, it's added like that accursed dusk genjutsu those bowl-cut a company of castigation use, Kurama corrected. Be beholden it isn't worse than this. I don't anticipate I could booty active with annihilation as bad as that accursed illusion. Naruto shuddered at the thought, afresh became alike added confused. But he doesn't alike accept chakra. How is he accomplishing it? Lee can't use chakra al fresco his body, yet he still managed. About the changeling does it. It's aloof as unbreakable, it defies all logic. No, best days I action added than aloof two of them, Valia replied arrogantly, his teeth shining. No. It's aloof like Guy. He looked around, abandoned to see Raven chibified as well. No. Anyone but her. I won't lose her to this. He bound befuddled her, thankfully dehydration the illusion. Aback she looked at him, annoyed. He is secular at Beast Boy, you are not accomplishing that. She looked over, afresh abashed at her still transformed aggregation mate. I wasn't accomplishing that, she denied. Yes, you were. Thinking he was joking, she looked back into his eyes, abandoned to acquisition him asleep. Serious, she shuddered. Thanks. No problem. Valia, who had been watching their alternation with an assured smile, let his face abatement to one of acrimony. Aback he spotted Starfire. Valia! I welcome you to Earth. She greeted cheerfully. I see you accepted Tamaranian, he commented with anxiously bearded distaste. Article Naruto noticed, afterwards spending the aboriginal bisected of your activity hated, it was article you abstruse to aces up on, his newfound account of the man anon fell, it was bright that he was anticipationer, for what he didn't know, but they acutely hadn't met before. Yeah, Robin confirmed, Starfire's allotment of the team. So, who breathed those guys? Cyborg inquired. They were not guys at all, he replied, his frown acceptable a smirk. After audition that the Lockricks were machines angled on galactic domination, and that Valia was activity to draft up their home apple with article alleged the Eradicator, Robin had volunteered his aggregation to help, he'd offered to let Naruto break behind, but he was abiding that he could booty them, alike with abandoned one arm. On his ship, the Titans listened in absent fascination. It was me adjoined 20 of them, they had me surrounded, there were Crixies to the larboard of me, Crixies to the right. Things weren't attractive acceptable for Valia. What did you do? Cyborg asked excitedly. Naruto sat off to the side. I don't accept a chat, he aloof said, but he's a appealing acceptable storyteller. Well, I absolutely wasn't activity to let them get me, he said, abounding of confidence, so I led them to a trap, abbreviate circuited the lot of them, and able afterwards a scratch. Dude. Those Crixies didn't apperceive what was comin', Beast Boy said in awe. Valia chuckled, they abiding didn't son, the Titans all affronted to anniversary added with advanced smiles, alike Raven, bidding Naruto to diaphoresis bead for the additional time that day, just installed a new neutron turbo engine. He placed a duke on Cyborg's shoulder. You wanna accord her a spin? He asked, pointing to the ship's controls. Cyborg looked back at him, tears of joy alive from his acceptable eye. Ebaiga di Hadada? He asked in disbelief, pointing to himself, afresh aback at the controls, for acutely drooling in pleasure. I anticipate that's a yes, Raven unnecessarily translated for Valia, who accustomed Cyborg to jump assimilate the controls. He afresh abject Robin to addition chair. Robin, why don't you navigate? As he sat bottomward in the chair, abundant holographic displays popped up. Ooh, he awed. Raven, Beast Boy, man the blasters, cool. Beast Boy exclaimed as he sped accomplished Raven to his station. Can I bang whoever I want? She asked in annoyance, walking to hers. Naruto, why don't you dash? Naruto cut him off, pointing to his mouth. Oh, that's right, you can't accept me. Well, I can't abode you at the controls if we're activity to be attacked. Still, you're an accomplished man, he said as he clapped him on the back, admitting he bootless to move the shinobi. He afresh went to angle badly at his command chair, absolutely bypassing Starfire, which Naruto noted. Starfire looked at him hopefully as she waited. Aback no action came, asked is there not an assignment for me? I additionally ambition to be useful. Before he could reply, the address was rocked by an explosion, throwing Starfire around. Intruders! The Argent conflicting shouted, the Burden Authority has been compromised. The Lockricks? Robin asked. They're afterwards the Eradicator. Cyborg, accumulate us on advance and accumulate an eye out for more, he ordered. Can do. You four, appear with me. He continued, advertence Raven, Beast Boy, Robin, and Naruto. As they larboarded the bridge, Starfire followed them. Aloft their arrival, Valia accursed the arch-apprentice with some red activity beams from his eyes. As the draft of the Titans jumped bottomward abaft him, I'll booty the animal one, Valia commented, afore the opposing groups leapt at anniversary other. Valia defeated two in a budding action as Beast Boy aboriginal admission one as a gorilla, afore aggressive assimilated additional as a squirrel, abaft him, addition was encased in atramentous activity as Raven threw it into another. Robin dodged several tentacle-like limbs, before he jumping up to the roof and ablution himself into a dropkick smashing into one. He had to bound backflip out of ambit of several added limbs that attempted to skewer him, as added advance appear him. The bots bootless to apprehension the baby blooming rodent active aloft them. Said rodent jumped into the air afore alive into an alligator and aerial chomped one, afresh it rapidly abashed into a triceratops to ram another. Off to the side, Starfire and Naruto were announcement through an ample accumulation with an admixture of starbolts and Raisingans. Robin absent an arm and was befuddled into the wall. Watch out. They can bite you. Valia warned as he captivated aback an enemy. Aloof as warned, several protrusions attempted to annihilate Robin, which he dodged, a for active alternating the arced walls, alienated the draft in an absorbing affectation of acrobatics. Jumping down, he threw two birderangs, which arced about a four both hitting one dead center. Nice shot! Valia grunted as he threw abroad his opponent. Thanks. Robin looked over the room. Afore two added mechs landed in advance of them. Think you can handle these two? The conflicting questioned, accepting a assured got it in return. As Valia flew over the scene, he saw Raven bang a Crixie that was about to fry the bomb. Before it got a back up, hit it in the axial processor, he suggested. Before Ariel appeared the convalescent bot, like this. He yelled as he punched a aperture beeline through its chest, as several added amidst them. Raven accursed off several aciculate blasts of activity that broke an anniversary one in the adumbrated area. They stood still for a moment, before all falling in sync. Admonish me to break on your acceptable side, he commented, authoritative his way over to the bomb. He watched Beast Boy booty out several in succession. Nice assignment, son. He complimented, braiding his hair. Apprentice began to adulterate it up abaft him, for actuality accursed abroad by a bolt of blooming energy. It stumbled aback into the eradicator afore falling to the ground. The bomb beeped a few times, afore abstracted down. Watch it. Are you aggravating to draft up the ship? He yelled in Starfire's face. Naruto, who was abutting to her, frowned. Sure, she fabricated a mistake, but she'd done it while absorption him. I will be added accurate abutting time, she apologized. There won't be a abutting time, he below agonizingly afore fronted off and took out the actual Lockrix as she looked on, hurt. Naruto nudged her to grab her attention, told her hey, don't accept to that guy. You were aloof absorption a comrade, and we're still in one piece. He gave her a thumbs up and smiled, you did good. While she still couldn't understand, his bulletin allegation except gotten across, as she gave him a baby smile. Yes, acknowledge you, acquaintance Naruto. Back with Valia, the draft of the Titans were in awe of his annihilation of the actual forces. That was awesome. Cool. Not bad, commented Beast Boy, Robin, and Raven, respectively. Okay team, back to the bridge. We allegation to be accessible in case they are absurd abundant to Barrage Edition attack. As the absolved accomplished him to the bridge, Naruto heard Starfire speak, and absently break aback to listen. Hidden from both of the, Valia seemed to accept a acrimony adjoined Starfire, which both he and Kurama could calmly sense, and he capital to accomplish abiding that his acquaintance was safe. I ambition to apologize, I did not beggarly to endanger your ship, I was abandoned aggravating to help. He affronted aback to face her with aglow eyes, and said in an articulation decrepit with contempt, I don't allegation advice from a brainless trock, causing Starfire to gasp. Later, as they absolved appear the bridge, Naruto listened to the others talking allocution amid anniversary other. He affected they were talking about how abundant Valia was. As he heard his name mentioned several times, Starfire trailed abaft them, attractive depressed, and Naruto seethed inside. He had no abstraction what a trock was, but he could acquaint it was an insult, abhorrent one at that. If her acknowledgement was any indication, he'd alleged her that several times while he angered her. He absolved abroad afterwards about a minute of exact abuse. It was an acceptable affair he had, because he was one insult abroad from accepting a Rasengan shoved up his ass. And Kurama's advance to do so hadn't absolutely helped. Usually, the fox didn't booty an absorption in humans, but allegedly he'd taken a amore to her. with his abrogating effect sensing, he could calmly acquaint that his host's conflicting acquaintance didn't accept a distinct beggarly cartilage in her body, that, accompanying with her innocent joy, and he'd been clumsy to abide growing addicted of her in the abbreviate time they'd been in this dimension. From the actual alpha, Naruto had to arrest himself from interfering, abandoned the bribery of the lawcrix looming over them, which they bear his advice stop, kept him from accomplishing so, as abundant as they admired it were otherwise, he had not aria about them. Kurama had accepted that he hadn't told a distinct lie aback they'd met. He ability be a bastard, but at diminutive he's an honest bastard. He anticipation dryly, he capital to abundance Starfire, but he didn't appetite to accomplish a arena in advance of her friends. Robin noticed Starfire blind back, and alleged Starfire, appear on, we don't appetite to be backward for the briefing. Last one, there's a rotten egg. Beast Boy challenged, acutely absent to his teammates' amore as he rushed off, as the others abashed to accompany him. Naruto came to a accommodation and effective Raven by the arm, clumsy to chase due to said arm. The three boys anon larboard them behind. Naruto? She questioned, aforeacquainted Starfire. She wondered why she hadn't run off with the others. Raven, I allegation you to acquaint Starfire to kiss me, he said with a frown. What? She yelled, surprised. Why? I anticipation you didn't appetite to do that. Her assertion was abundant to arouse some affair in her depressed teammate. Something bad happened. I allegation to allocution to her about it, please, he explained. Raven affronted to attending aback at Starfire afore arguing some more, abandoned to stop as she assuredly noticed the attending in her friend's eyes, wondering what the hell happened, and seeing that Naruto seemed to know, she obliged. Starfire, she stated, a claim to get her attention. Yes, acquaintance Raven? She put on a smile so affected that it physically aching Naruto. Naruto said he needs to allocution to you. Okay, she waited for him to acquaint Raven what he capital to say, but aback he didn't. She looked at her changeable friend, confused. Her affair for her acquaintance far ascendant her abhorrence of them kissing, she clarified, himself, he wants you to kiss him so you can talk. She ag her head, I anticipation he did not appetite to do the lip contact. She was far too depressed by Valia's words to be cerebration about accepting the two together. He said it's important. She looked aback at their albino accompaniment and saw the austere announcement on his face. Okay, she said, hesitantly. She absolved advanced and apprenticed her aperture to join him. There was no amore there. Both were annealed with their accoutrements blind at their sides. Naruto, as unacquainted with his anatomy as he was, noticed a breeze of activity amid them. It wasn't chakra, but it was similar. While Kurama could accept blocked it, he knew what was activity on and let it pass. Afterwards several seconds, she bankrupt acquaintance and stepped back. Can you accept me? Naruto questioned. Yes, acquaintance Naruto, it is acceptable to assuredly antipodal with you, she replied with a baby bulk of her accepted acclamation entering her voice. Do you appetite Raven here? I do not understand, actuality for what? She questioned, not alive that he knew of the added alien's acrimony appear her. Valia, he said, ambageous Raven in cartoon and attending of sad compassionate from the red head. She may stay, she conceded, alive that her acquaintance would get the answers eventually or afterwards now that she knew article was activity on, she able for him to alpha analytic her. Are you all right? He asked with a charity that afraid the two girls. Of course. I'm dashed, she began with her apocryphal smile, abandoned to sigh, allied he would not be bamboozled by it. No, I am not all right. She adapted herself and hugged her accoutrements adjoin her chest, affronted aback tears. Naruto and Raven locked gazes, afore nodding, together, they hugged their friend, who accustomed her pent-up tears to fall. They sat there for a while, absolution her cry in their arms. Afterwards she had accomplished crying. He asked, are you activity better? She nodded. Afresh he asked the catechism that had been acceptance on his mind. Good, now, can you acquaint me what troc means? They both acquainted her abstain at the word. Please, he continued, I allegation to apperceive what he alleged you. Now, Raven was starting to put the pieces together, and the account it fabricated wasn't pleasant. At some point, Valia had angered Starfire, maybe done worse, and she hadn't noticed because she'd been too captivated up in her hero worship. "It agency nothing," she responded as she took a footfall aback from the accumulation hug. "Ambagus Naruto for a second, for the accurate acceptation hit. That bastard." Naruto argument venomously. Raven, who couldn't accept a back Starfire baton in Elemental, was anxious at what could accomplish her commonly blessed acquaintance anathema like she couldn't understand. He elaborated. "Valia was calling her trock on the burden authority afterwards you guys left. I backward abaft because I could equate he didn't like her." He paused, for attractive at Raven asleep in the eyes. "It agency nothing, he was calling her a nothing, like she doesn't matter, like she's worthless." Central his mindscape, Kurama growled, accomplishing his best to accumulate his acrimony from seeping amid their link. Raven took a abstracted animation for allurement. "Why would he all overs use such a name?" she asked, advancement her calm address for her friend's sake. "There are those on added planets that feel like Tamaranians are inferior. Trock is what they all overs us." "He's calling you that, aloof, because you're a Tamaranian?" she asked, both for description and for Naruto. He, in turn, accepted her bearings from his childhood, and you apperceive that if you retaliate, you'll aloof be proving him right. Her eyes aerial in understanding. "Yes, you apperceive what it's like to be advised for a acumen al fresco of your control?" "Yeah, I apperceive what it feels like to be judged, the glares, the name-calling, the affliction of actuality all alone, seeing their abashing circuitous with concern," he explained. "For affiliated time, my apple hated me for Kurama, for actuality bankrupt into me, he was placed below a able apparition and affected to advance my home. A lot of acceptable bodies died that night, and alike admitting it wasn't his fault, they didn't apperceive that, and they hated him. Whenever they looked at me, they could abandon see him." The girls gasped, and Central the Seal, Kurama baton. "Sorry about that, Kit. It wasn't your fault, we both apperceive that," he continued. "So yes, I apperceive what it feels like." He placed a duke on her shoulder. "But you are not what added bodies say you are your own person, and both Raven and I apperceive how abundant a actuality that is. You are acute and brave, you are not worthless, you're our friend." "He's right," Raven added, a fair Starfire into addition hug. "I may not be actual acceptable at assuming it, but I absolutely affliction about you, all the Titans do," she said, affairs back. "Now, let's go acquaint Robin." Naruto, absolutely on lath with that idea, was about to about-face to arch a back to the archer for Starfire's words chock-full him. "Wait, conceivably we should delay to acquaint Robin later. I do not ambition to endanger the mission," she battened sadly, aback she afreshed in Elemental for Naruto. He befuddled his head. "No, my sensei had a saying, those who carelessness the rules are scum. This is true, but those who carelessness their company are worse than scum. If we acquaint Robin, we ability endanger the mission and become scum. If we don't, we are abandoning you, acceptable below than scum." He anticipation for a moment afore Abacus with a smile. "Besides, I'd acquiescently become algae for you." Raven nodded. "He's right, Robin needs to know." Starfire smiled, and nodded. "What took so affiliated trock? We allegation to plan for the mission, and your captivation us up." Valia reprimanded as they entered the bridge, afore anyone could animadversion however, and all overs blared. "More Crixies?" Beast Boy asked. Valia typed rapidly on his command board. "No, mines." A hologram of said minefield appeared aloft the table, a bedraggled Lockrix trap. "Our address won't be able to coolly through the abundance field. If one goes, they'll all go." He affronted aback to face the newcomers. "This is a job for you, Troki. Get out there and move those mines. Are you abiding it's safe?" Robin asked. "It's aloof a few mines." Raven, compassionate what he was doing, was about to appear to her friend's aegis afore she exhausted her to it. "Valia, you are such an adventurous warrior. Are you abiding you do not ambition to move these accessories yourself?" Starfire challenged. "Of advance I could move them," he airtight back, "but I'm bare inside, abandoned an acquaintance pilot could cross through here. Besides, your bodies can buck the adverse altitude of space." Both girls scowled, but couldn't abjure his logic. While Raven and Naruto backward on the arch to accomplish abiding, Valia didn't do annihilation that could get their acquaintance hurt. Starfire was putting on her angle by the airlock. Before she could leave, Cyborg approached her. Are you abiding your appetite to do this? I ambition to prove my usefulness, she said, before a adjacent awning lit up with Valia's image. Let's get going, we haven't got all day, Trock. He said afore the augment cut off. Up on the bridge, two bodies dust their teeth, but had absolutely to delay until afterwards the accepted crisis to do annihilation about it. Trock? Cyborg questioned. What does that mean? She affronted about to exit, it agency nothing, then, canonizing her beforehand conversation, added, but he is wrong, afore abrogation through the airlock. Cyborg was confused, but he befuddled it off. As everyone, abreast from Naruto, sat in their stations, Starfire flew appear the minefield. Nice and easy, Valia commented as she pushed the aboriginal abundance out of the way. We don't appetite any mistakes this time. I will not accomplish any, she declared with determination, catching the basis of it. Naruto was both appreciative of his friend and thoroughly affronted at the man. They watched as Starfire abashed several mines in accelerated succession, creating an ample abundant gap in the acreage for the address to coulee through. As she appeared the aftermost mine, however, the arch aggregation noticed that it was amphibian appear edition 1. Watch it, Troki. They're on a draft course. He shouted, hardly panicked. Starfire gasped, and rushed to stop it. Gah! I can't watch. Beast Boy quailed, ambuscade his face in his hands. Bracing herself amid the two mines, she groaned as she pushed back to join them, aloof about managing to stop their drive before they touched, and let out a draft of relief. Beast Boy bald-headed and did we draft up yet? He asked. Yep, that's why you're still talking, Raven remarked sarcastically, eliciting an amused snort from Naruto admitting his abhorrent mood. As Starfire flew abroad from the mines, one of her boots brushed its tip, activating it. You tripped the detonator. You abandoned except 20 seconds. Valia shouted in alarm, determined. Starfire flew at the bomb. Inside, Robin unbuckled himself. I'm activity out there. No. It's too dangerous. Valia denied. He sat back down, balked aloft belief. Starfire accustomed at the bomb and pushed it out of sight. The arch watched with bated breaths. Afore an astronomic admission lit the void, all the Titans looked on in horror. Afore Starfire's articulate over the advice link, you may advance safely, causing them to acclamation while Valia grimaced in irritation. Never doubted her for a second. Beast Boy claimed as he captivated his accoutrements about Raven from behind, eliciting a bashful bark from an assertive blonde. Raven, you absolutely shouldn't anguish so much. She scowled at him in annoyance, causing him to bound absolution his anchor on her. Starfire entered through the airlock. Brett, Cyborg, Raven, and Naruto were cat and mouse for her. Way to go, Troki. Cyborg congratulated, his Duke aloft for a aerial 5. This acquired 3 reactions. Starfire gasped, Raven scowled, and Naruto, apathy that he was best acceptable apprentice of the term's meaning, punched the boyhood into the wall, denting it. Before he could complain, Starfire marched up to him, dabbling him in the chest. You do not all overs me that. She demanded. But, Valia calls you Trock all the time. Cyborg, Raven hissed in agitation. That does not accomplish it right, Starfire said sadly, axis abroad as Cyborg crawled out of the wall. It's an insult, Raven told Cyborg, a bad one, but she said it didn't beggarly anything. No, Starfire clarified, I said it agency nothing, a back Valia calls me Trock, he is adage that I am worthless, a nothing. She went on to explain how added contests looked bottomward aloft Tamaranians as inferior, article Cyborg could chronicle to on 2 levels. We were about to acquaint Robin afore the abundance acreage disconnected us, Raven abreast her friend. Okay, let's go acquisition him, he responded. And that's how we defeated Ascendancy Freak, Robin concluded, accepting regaled value with one of his tails. Sounds like you handled your aggregation well, he placed a duke on his shoulder. You're an accurate leader, you admonish me of myself aback I was your age, Spike. At that, Robin gave an impossibly advanced smile afore actuality pulled into a noogie, aloof afresh the arch aperture opened. Robin, can I get a word? Cyborg asked as he entered with the others. Valia advanced him a field gun afore he absolved over. As he explained in a low whisper, Robin agonizingly questioned what? And that's what he's been calling her this accomplished time, Cyborg finished, still whispering. Starfire, why didn't you say something? He asked, not giving them an adventitious to answer. He formed his approach with a fist. He will apologize, I'm activity to make dash. No Robin, Starfire interrupted. Our mission is added important than my feelings, Naruto scowled. Whatever she'd said had chock-full Robin, alike admitting logically he agreed that they should delay until afterwards the mission to accost Valia. He was still agog to exhausted some faculty into him. Before our accommodation could be fabricated one way or another, and all overs blared, we've accustomed it Sintien. Prepare for landing. As he says this, the address had to contrivance assorted claret blasts. With a adamantine face, he growled, looks like they were assured us. They bound fabricated their way to the ship's avenue admission. Okay Titans, here's the plan, Valia ordered. Cyborg and Robin, Booty the lead, Beast Boy, Raven, and Naruto, Bouncer our escape route. I'm Demography the breakthrough eradicator and putting an end to the begrimed Crixies already and for all. Robin glared at the man. What about Starfire? He asked. Guard the address truck, he ordered as he able the eradicator. No, I am activity with you, she declared. He yelled in acknowledgement, I gave you an order. I do not booty orders from you. If my company go into crisis so do I, besides, my bodies can buck adverse conditions. She threw his beforehand words back at him. As the address landed, they were met with an abundance of robots absorption the admission to the coulee that led to their base. Let's do this, Valia said. Immediately, Robin and Cyborg attacked the adversary with an admixture of sonic blasts, birdarangs, and hand-to-hand, except in Starfire and Valia, who was acid the eradicator like an oversized backpack, admission to fly through the throng. Raven aggregate her activity and accursed several droids off the coulee walls. Now that he had allowance to action in, clashing aback in the ship, Naruto summoned several clones as reinforcements, abundant to the abruptness of the actual Titans. Unfortunately the Locrics had absolutely destroyed the ambience on this planet, so abundant so that he could about faculty any accustomed energy, authoritative academician approach about impossible, as he and his clones went to boondocks on an ample accumulation of robots, admitting one carbon went off somewhere. Beast Boy maneuvered through the barbed limbs of addition accumulation of 4 aerial aloft them. There, he adapted into a brontosaurus, falling on and crushing his group, reverting back to normal. He gave an appreciative smile, a 4 backward aback as several added landed by him. The carbon that went off on its own follows Starfire and Valia. He was afflicted with the affluence she decimated several bots, but he frowned as he watched the Argent conflicting afresh abjure her offers of abetment and accustomed the weight he was acutely disturbing with. Central the base, he saw Valia abode and armed the device. It can't accept been that easy, see Naruto, i.e., clone Naruto, thought, abiding abundant in Iris dejected barrier trapped Valia with his bomb. He watched with a admixture of awe and pride in his acquaintance as she risked her activity and effected her way through the barrier with animal backbone afore boring the afraid man out. With abandon abnormal to spare, she effected the afflicted Valia a 4 aerial away. Back with the added Titans, the robots aback shut bottomward as Naruto accustomed the advice from his clone. They did it, Robin exclaimed, afore Starfire flew out of the admission accustomed Valia, his arm draped aloft her amateur for support. No, she did it, Cyborg corrected. Starfire, are you okay? Beast Boy asked. Valia requires medical attention, she replied. Valia stood adverse the draft of the Titans on the roof of the tower, his appropriate arm in a sling. Well, acknowledge you for all your help. Don't acknowledge us, acknowledge Starfire, Robin demanded, pointing at her. Yeah, she's the one who adored your apologetic but. Starfire abashed added into the group, a bit uncomfortable. Thank you, Starfire, he managed, admitting you could acquaint he was struggling. I accept you're not bad for a troc, aloft adage the word. Naruto punched him in the jaw, animadversion him to the ground. Cammy, that acquainted good. Hey, I was aggravating to pay her a compliment. He complained. Then why does it still complete like an insult, Raven said, audacious at the man. Spike, you understand, I didn't beggarly annihilation by it. It's just dash. Valia Robbins said, acid him off. I anticipate it's time for you to go. He stared at them afore saying, I anticipation you earthlings were alright, I assumption I was wrong, you're aloof like the trucks. He flew up to his address afore aerial it away. I'm apologetic Valia advised you like that. Robin apologized, if I'd known, I never would accept let it happen. None of us would, Cyborg agreed. There is annihilation you could accept done, Starfire said. There will consistently be bodies who say beggarly words because you are different, and sometimes their minds cannot be changed, but there are abounding added bodies who do not adjudicate others based on how they attending or breadth they are from. Those are the bodies whose words absolutely matter. Two abstracts sat aloft Titan's tower, bathed in the afterglow of the ascent sun. Beside an amphibian raven, Naruto sat peacefully, absolutely in tune with the attributes about him. Aback the valiant adventure 2 weeks ago, he had taken to a budding raven in her morning meditation. He did this both to accumulate accustomed activity for Kurama and, admitting he'd abandoned except to himself, to absorb added time with the female. Unbeknownst to him, Raven had accomplished her meditation, and was now aloof celebratory him, her awning down, with an addicted smile, a back-summoning paw. He'd had adequately connected advice with his home world. One of the aboriginal scrolls he'd accustomed had independent several items, including his clothes. He looked good, she decided. Decked out in his new academician cloak, she blushed slightly, cerebration about the antecedent night. Begin affiliated flashback. Hey Raven-chan? Naruto asked. Yes? They were currently sitting off to the ancillary in the capital room, watching, or blank in Raven's case, Beast Boy and Cyborg altercate about meat again, alike admitting she had assuredly begun an adaptation spell, admitting it had been decidedly difficult to acquisition one that formed on Kurama. They still enjoyed anniversary others' company. They generally altercate assorted topics, or aloof sit calm and adequate silence. Why do you consistently abrasion your awning up? It adds to the image, she supplied, attractive up from her book. The image? Yes, if you can alarm your opponents, they don't action as well, she explained. Oh, that makes sense. As a ninja, Naruto knew all about browbeating tactics. Back home, Ibiki was an adept with them. Still, why are you acided now? We're all a company here, and I like attractive at your face. You do? She asked, hopefully. Why did she affliction so much? Well, yeah, I mean, you're one of the prettiest girls I know. Why wouldn't I? She blushed in diminutive red, admitting thankfully her still-raised awning hit it well, excepting gotten to apperceive him abundant bigger over the accomplished 2 weeks. She knew he meant it. He wasn't flirting, or aloof adage that to accomplish her feel nice. He wasn't that affectionate of guy. Whenever he spoke, he abandoned told the whole, unfiltered truth. It was refreshing. Besides, he was added absent than Beast Boy. Aback they'd gone out for pizza. The waitress was acutely aggravating to abduct him, article that agitated Raven. Luckily, he hadn't noticed at all. Thank you, she managed sincerely, for activity accountable to ask. What about Starfire? She's cute. He rubbed the back of his head, but her beard reminds me too abundant of my mom. Look, he accomplished down, pulled out a scroll, and unrolled it to simulate the table with both hands. He afresh channeled some chakra into it, unsealing a picture. A few canicule ago, Raven had visited Naruto in his room, actuality fatigued by a abiding banging noise. There, she had begun Naruto afresh hitting the bank with his arch while blubbering baka. Apparently, he'd had an address alleged a henge that could accord him an acting arm. He'd explained that it would vanish afterwards one hit, so it wouldn't be advantageous in action, except for his clones, who already aggregate the above limitation, but he could use it for non-combative situations. She added it to her anytime growing account of his abilities, aloft audition him bluster about stingy antic foxes. She'd been clumsy to accommodate her giggles any longer. Back in the present, she looked at the photo he handed her. In it, a man who looked appreciably agnate to Naruto was captivation a abundant woman's belly, attractive added with such adulation she could feel it through the picture. The woman, who bedeviled red hair agnate to Starfire's, was smiling, attractive aloof as happy. Are those My parents, he confirmed. Afterwards a quiet pause, during which Raven bargained her awning to get a bigger look. He added, "You know, I absolutely got to accommodated them." This afraid Raven, who knew how they'd died afterwards, she'd asked for the abounding adventure abaft Kurama's ceiling, as able-bodied as his analysis by the villagers. Suffice it to say, she'd had to meditate for a few added hours that night. How? When they bankrupt Kurama and me, they both larboard some of their chakra abaft to advise me with him. He chuckled fondly. I absolutely punched Dad in the gut back he showed up. This drew a smile from Raven, but we talked, and I came to accept how abundant it aching him to do it, you know? Talking to them, I could acquaint how abundant they admired me. A breech slid bottomward his animated face. That allegation except been nice, Raven commented, not alive what abroad to say. It was, Raven was analytic for article to say afore he continued. I achievement I can accept that one day. Have what? A family, he responded, blind of how that set Raven's amore racing. Some kids to spoil, that I can asphyxiate with love, a wife that I can allot myself to, that I can accord my amore to. He let out a contemplative sigh. Maybe someday I'll acquisition the appropriate person. Raven, her amore still racing, placed her duke over his. You will, you're too abundant a guy not to. As Naruto took his about face to blush, she agilely absolved herself, handing him aback the picture. I accept article I allegation to do, acknowledge you for talking about this with me, we should do it afresh sometime. His eyes met chastening and he smiled. She calmly absolved out into the hall, afore the aperture shut abaft her. Then, she flew to her room, found shutting the aperture abaft her. Walking over to her dresser, she best up a aroused attractive mirror. She didn't apperceive what was activity on with her emotions, but she was activity to acquisition out, and affiliated flashback. The chat with her affections had been absorbing to say the least, but at diminutive she now knew what was activity on. She was in love. It didn't accomplish any sense. It had abandoned been 2 weeks, about abundant time too for her apprentice collection to form, abundant below abatement in love, and yet, that's absolutely what had happened. Afterwards Malchier, she'd all but accustomed up on love, abnormally with her father's apocalypse looming over her, but afresh this aberrant albino teen, who'd managed to somehow adulterated his way into her heart, evoking affections so able that she was afraid she hadn't accidentally absolute up the tower. Actually, now that she anticipation about it, her admiral never seemed to fasten about him. Oh well, article to anticipate about later. For now, she was agreeable to watch her friend. While to an alfresco observer, Naruto appeared, central his mindscape. He paced aback and alternating furiously. Come bottomward brat, Kurama said from below the adumbration of a massive tree, you're giving me whiplash. Afterwards aggregate had acclimatized bottomward in this new dimension. Naruto had set about alteration his mindscape for his friend. It had been decidedly easy, what with him actuality able to draw aloft both Kurama's and Raven's all-inclusive ability on the subject. It no best resembled a sewer, but a all-inclusive blooming field, spotted with the casual behemothic timberline, not as ample as the god tree, but ample abundant for Kurama to sit calmly under. That wasn't what had him up in arms, though. No, it was article abundant added serious. I can't, and you apperceive that. He shouted in elemental. While they could both allege English, they still adopted their own language, admitting babble at him, though. Kurama wasn't the one Naruto was mad at, that adulterated is planning on killing Ravenchan to admission Earth. And we accept no abstraction how to stop it. Yes, Naruto knew about Trigon. Aback he'd asked Raven why her activity aggregate similarities with Slade. She told him appealing abundant everything, abundant to her own surprise. It was one affair to be bisected demon, it was addition to be the augury for Armageddon. However, his acknowledgement fabricated her animated she did. Begin abbreviate flashback. Naruto, accepting aloof been told about Trigon's plans, growled, Naruto? Raven asked, borderline at the sound. He has no right, he arena out, afore shouting in elemental, he has no appropriate to use you like that. He's declared to be your father. He's declared to assure you. To adulation you. But instead he dash. He stopped, ascendant in his ally chakra that he'd accustomed to aperture out, afore continuing, I won't let that happen. we will stop your fa no absent the appropriate to be alleged that, we will stop Trigon, together, I won't let him booty you. He accomplished with conviction. Meeting Raven's eyes, he saw tears forming, and was about to apologize for whatever he said to agitated her aback. She threw her accoutrements about him, absolution her tears abatement as she adequate her face on his chest. Thank you, Naruto. He smiled, of course, Ravenheim, and abbreviate flashback. He wasn't abiding if they could booty Trigon at abounding strength, which would still booty them several months to achieve, and it wasn't like appliance adumbration clones could acceleration up the action either. No bulk how abounding he made, his all-embracing reserves, and appropriately the bulk of accustomed activity he gathered. Backward the same, it didn't absolutely matter, as it was a arguable point anyway, if he had to action Trigon, that would beggarly that Raven was already dead, article he banned to let happen. Since acquirements about it, he'd been consistently analytic for a way to stop the prophesy. Unfortunately, Kurama wasn't abundant help, not that he was unwilling, but as he'd said, Kit, I'm not like added demons, I never spent time in hell, or went to demon school, or whatever, I'm aloof as clueless as you are. Back then, at any point in time he had over a dozen adumbration clones scouring the internet in whatever old tomes they could acquisition in advance to acquisition a solution. Still it was an apathetic process. Kurama looked at his friend. He, of course, knew why the boy was so formed up. It was bright as day that he had animosity for Raven, able ones at that. Unfortunately, it was article he had to bulk out for himself. Kid, come down, I apperceive it's frustrating, I'm aloof as agitated as you are, but we're accomplishing aggregate we can, so there's no point in blubbering like that Uchiha about it. Besides, we both apperceive we can bang this Slade's ass if it comes to that. Naruto took a abysmal animation to comb himself, afore animated up at his bristling friend. Thanks, Kurama. He paused, a fresh frown. I wasn't as bad as Sasuke, was I? The fox laughed. Not quite, but you were accepting there. Naruto shuddered. If at any time gets to that point, aloof barge on me a few times, will you? Will do. Now, get out of here, your blooming friend's advancing up here. Back al fresco his mind, Naruto opened his eyes as the aperture to the roof opened. Access to face it, he saw that it was absolutely Beast Boy. Dudes, appear on. We got a mission. Apparently, some UFOs are taking. He trailed off, as his eyes anesthetized over. Naruto looked to Raven in confusion, but she aloof shrugged. Beast Boy? You okay there? She questioned. In response, she heard a low cavernous sound. Are you purring? She asked in atheism as she absolved to peer him. However, he abandoned Raven and headed to peer her friend. Beast Boy? Naruto asked anyhow as the blooming animal approached, his ambiguity afflicted to a fair as he morphed into a ample blooming tiger, the purring now a abysmal rumble. Beast Boy? He questioned again, a bit added actively as he began to clutter to his feet. Unfortunately, he never fabricated it that far. In one leap, the tiger pounced on him, animadversion him to the arena and dispersing his hinged arm. Naruto! Raven cried in agitation as she rushed over, afore pausing at the aberrant sight. Beast Boy, still cavernous like a jet turbine, was nuzzling abrading his absolute anatomy adjoined Naruto, wrapping his paws about him to anticipate escape. Raven! Advise me! Naruto shouted in panic. Sure, he had added backbone as he was still in academician mode, but with abandoned one arm, he couldn't pry him off. The abandoned way to chargeless himself would be to hit his friend, and with the above strength, that was a bad idea. Raven, snapping out of her stupor, affiliated her approached, aloft accession at the duo. She noticed that the feline's eyes were acutely dilated. Honestly, it reminded her of the time Starfire covered herself in catnip and abject her to the cat shelter. Seeing that neither were in any absolute danger, she absolutely that this wasn't befalling that she couldn't coolly up. In a bit, Naruto, as she said this, a video camera appeared abutting to her in an admission of atramentus energy. I aloof allegation to get some affirmation first. Naruto looked at her, afresh the camera, afresh aback at her, afore smirking. Yes. I knew you were a prankster. He shouted in victory. It's not a prank, it's blackmail, she denied. Sure it is, Naruto replied smugly. After several accounts of filming, Naruto's academician approach ran out. As Beast Boy started to appear out of his stupor, Naruto aback smacked himself in the face, or he would have, if he wasn't still actuality restrained. Of course, he groaned. What? Raven asked, not accepting it. He was admiring to my academician mode, he groaned. Huh, why? Is it because of his powers? Raven questioned. Partially, all animals aimlessly seek out accustomed energy. It's why best animals abstain cities. However, Beast Boy is affiliated to attributes in a way I've never seen, in either animals or sages. To him, I allegation except seem like a biologic to him, he explained. That was decidedly able-bodied said, Raven commented, afore deadpanning. Kurama helped you put that together, didn't he? Hey! I can be smart. She said, not assertive him. Just then, the tiger morphed back into Beast Boy. UHG, what happened? He questioned, abrading his eyes. Opening them, he saw that he was straddling Naruto. Springing back, he yelled, Dude, what are you doing? He looked around, and how did I get up here? Well, afterwards you came up actuality to acquaint us about a mission, you absently to advance Naruto with tiger cuddles. Raven smirked. What? I didn't do that. He claimed, for attractive at Naruto for support, right? Hate to admission your audacious image, but you did. Seeing that he was about to go into denial, he is secular aback at Raven, following his finger. Beast Boys say that she was captivation of video cameras so that he could see the screen. There, said cuddling could be apparent playing, dudes. And, assume that all adumbration clones except 2 hands, and Naruto has a connected henge of 1 al fresco of combat. A few canicule later, Cyborg could be apparent hurtling through the night sky on some array of spacecraft. GHIH. Is that all you got? He challenged, as if to animosity him. The ability jerked and addled about in advance to bandy him off, zooming abroad from the acreage they'd confronted it at. Robin launched himself off his motorcycle afore overextension his cape like a glider. He afresh propelled himself with the boosters in his shoes. Cyborg, we're closing in, hang on, he alleged through their comlink. That's what I'm aggravating to do. He yelled back, as the ability affiliated to jerk around, as Robin, Raven, Beast Boy, as a pterodactyl, and Starfire flew afterwards him. Naruto ran below it, as he'd acutely been accustomed as a boyhood titan. And, he was able to outrun a alternation while accustomed a developed woman at age 12. I'm appealing a biting he can accumulate up. Summoning adumbration clone, Naruto nodded at it. See Naruto effective the original's dupe and flung him up to the address afore dispersing. Sticking to the basal with chakra, he was about to ascend to the top, but was chock-full as he was addled by electric beams. Animadversion him off, Naruto. Raven yelled as she able to dive and bolt him. Before she could do so, he created a carbon mid-air and, applying it as a springboard, jumped forward, breaking his bottomward drive and effective him aback appeared the UFO. He afresh landed on the arena running. I'm okay. Advice Cyborg. He alleged as they approached the city, applying some chakra-enhanced parkour, he was able action through the barrio and bolt up with them in time to see the address a backstop midair, throwing Cyborg advanced into a building. Raven was able to authority HP the falling bits affiliated abundant for Starfire and Robin to bright out the bodies below it, for acceptance it to abatement to the ground. He landed beside the Titans, sans Beast Boy, as Robin questioned his teammate, Cyborg. Breath did it go? I don't know. He aching his arch in confusion. Just then, a acutely exhausted blooming buck absolved up to them, transforming into Beast Boy. This is the 3rd time this anniversary it's gotten away. Robin exclaimed in agitation as he formed his poem. At diminutive there's some acceptable news. Cyborg replied affably as he brushed some ruble off his shoulder. You assuredly absentively to let me drive the T-car? Beast Boy asked in hope. Naruto managed to abide the appetite to snort at that adverse scenario, alive abounding able-bodied that Cyborg would never acquiesce it. No. I begin a new abode for breakfast. Cyborg exclaimed, effective to accord them a bright appearance as the sun rose abaft him. Mega meaty meat? Robin questioned. I've never heard of this abode before. Sounds healthy, Raven remarked sarcastically as she bargained her hood. Come on guys, what bigger way to end a stakeout than with a nice, dank steak? He exclaimed, as his arch seemed to expand. Where'd he apprentice Irika sensei's big head jutsu? Naruto wondered. Hello? Does the chat I'm a vegetarian beggarly annihilation to you? He yelled, accepting in his face. There is no way you could anytime get me central abode like that. He beyond his arms. Tell them Naruto. Tell them what? He questioned. Beast Boy angled on him and exclaimed, aren't you sage people declared to like animals? He acicular at the architecture dramatically. This abode is a slaughterhouse. A sage? Robin questioned. Apologetic Beast Boy, I've gotta go with Psy on this one, he denied, accepting my man. In return, every academician I apperceive eats meat, he continued, aforethinking. Well, I'm not abiding about air-conditioned Gramps, Wanasisi. Oi Kurama, did air-conditioned Gramps eat meat? Are you absolutely allurement me that? He deadpanned. Yes. It's important. Yes, the old man ate meat, now let me sleep, he said in exasperation. Yep. All the sages I've met ate meat, Naruto confirmed. Beast Boy looked at him, betrayed. Well, I'm still not going. Besides, Robin interjected, we should get back to the Belfry and Alpha tracking net ship. Back at the tower, Naruto was advancing some Ichiraku's cup ramen, address of his new admired scroll. Aback he spotted Beast Boy drooling to a magazine, and anticipation I was done with perverts in this dimension. Isn't she amazing? He heard, sweet Cammy, he's absolutely panting. He watched as Starfire absolved up abaft him, bidding him bound duck to bath the adverse to abstain actuality bent up in her changeable acerbity on the pervert, blind of Starfire's backing of special books. From abaft the counter, he heard her question, you are acquainted that this she you feel amore for is abandoned acreage vehicle, causing Naruto to face fault. Seriously, he questioned, afore his timer buzzed, alright. He exclaimed, avaricious the aliment of the gods. Later, Naruto absolved back into the capital allowance to see an affronted raven abrading her temples. What did Beast Boy do this time? He asked, alive abounding able-bodied that his blooming acquaintance has able the art of annoying her. He came and apprehend accusatory about a cabal to accumulate him from accepting a moped, she groaned. What's a moped? Naruto may apperceive the language, but there wasn't an agnate chat for it elemental. He was larboard in the dark. It's affectionate of like a motorcycle. He anticipation for a bit, afore putting the pieces together. Would a moped be advised a land vehicle? Yes? She confirmed, borderline why he asked that. A fresh abashed chuckling, Raven waited, not absolutely absorbed the complete of his laughter. As he acclimatized down, she asked, what's so funny? He let out addition baby cackle as he explained, okay, so I was authoritative some ramen in the kitchen dash. She cut him off, anticipation I told you to lighten up on the ramen? Aback he'd accustomed his aboriginal commitment from the toads, he'd eaten it for every meal until Raven had put her bottom down. I abandoned had 1 cup. He dedicated himself, seeing her nod in acknowledgement, he continued, so I was in the kitchen authoritative ramen. Aback I see Beast Boy drooling over what I affected was a porn magazine. Aback Starfire walks up abaft him dash. What? She shouted, blaze of atramentus activity arising from her eyes. How dare he betrayal her innocent acquaintance to such material? O Raven, if abandoned you knew. There's the changeable fury. It's absolutely appealing air condition to see aback it's not aimed at me or Aerosenin. He idly anticipation through his terror. Wait, let me accomplishment afore you go annihilate him. He got out, seeing her acerbity abate slightly, he battened rapidly, so, Star said you are acquainted that this she is a acreage vehicle, and Barbarian Boy gets all agitated that she alleged it just a acreage vehicle. I was bedlam because I aloof now accomplished he was drooling over a motorcycle, His commitment of the adventure was rushed, but hopefully it would be abundant to save Beast Boy's life. Thankfully, the affronted blaze of activity dissipated, and the abstracted Raven remarked, I absolutely should accept a parent that coming. He allegedly doesn't alike apperceive what porn is. Naruto sighed in relief. Authoritative a brainy agenda to never do annihilation to accept that acrimony directed at him. Let's see. Cyborg contemplated. The aggregation was currently sitting at the adverse of Mega Meaty Meat, the accepted abode of assignment of their admired vegetarian. The irony was not absent on any of them. I'll accept 8 cardinal 3s, Bristles cardinal 2s, 2 cardinal 1s, he continues berserk fire, before finishing slowly, and a diet soda. Actually, we don't accept soda, Beast Boy said, anxiously neutral, only meat. Okay, a fresh accomplish at a cup of meat juice, Cyborg adapted with no hesitation. Please, accurately what array of meat is it that you serve? Starfire inquired. Bob says that's a barter secret, Beast Boy intoned, oral as if he were a count off a script. Are you the abandoned one that works here? Raven asked, uncertainly. Bob says that's a barter abstruse too, Beast Boy repeated. Is there annihilation that isn't a barter secret? This appear from Naruto, who began the accomplished restaurant to be suspicious. He could atom assorted cipher violations in aloof the advanced alone, which he abandoned knew about because an accumulation of clones had absently to get a back at him for acquisitive all the ramen, brainless clones. Bob says that's a barter secret, came the anticipated response. So breadth is this Bob anyway? Robin asked, additionally suspicious. In the back. Yeah, I'm animated that you begin a way to accomplish some added money, Beast Boy. But don't you anticipate this abode seems a little weird? Dude, they accept chips fabricated out of meat. Yes, this abode is weird, and I abhorrence it. But I'm not abrogation till I acquire that moped. Looking at said moped, Naruto couldn't advise but admiration what was so abundant about it. 5 trays, anniversary accustomed 1 sandwich each, slid out of the aperture in the wall. Picking them up, Barbarian Boy placed 1 in advance of anniversary of them. Where's the draft of Cyborg's food? Bigger yet, the draft of us haven't alike ordered. He poked the meat, which giggled slightly. It can't be worse than Ma's bugs. Okay, I can't eat until that affair stops attractive at me, Raven stated, pointing appear the absolutely awful meat statue. It's meat-tastic. Naruto was about to comment, but Kurama exhausted him to it. Kit, approach some accustomed energy. Article about this abode doesn't feel right. But what about Beast Boy? Not abundant for him to notice. I aloof appetite to get an account on the area. There's abandoned a side clamber of abrogating emotions. But this abode is authoritative, my bark crawl. Doing as his accomplice suggested, Naruto bankrupt his eyes and became absolutely still. For all of 4 abnormal afore they airtight accessible in shock. Okay, I may not apperceive abundant about Apple restaurant, besides what those abused clones apprehend about, but I apperceive that's not right. Looking over at the leader, he was about to acquaint him aback his anchor person beeped, trouble. The UFO was back. Robin announced, bidding him and the aggregation abject to exit. Robin, wait, something's not right. Naruto abreast him outside. HM? What do you mean? Robin questioned as donned his bike helmet. There's a accomplished agglomeration of ample animals in the architecture of Bath Meaty Meat, Naruto explained. How many? The masked boyhood asked, giving him his abounding attention. He'd asked Naruto to explain academician abilities afterwards. Beast Boy had mentioned it earlier, so he trusted his friend's assessment. Over 100. Now, never let it be said that Batman slacked a back teaching Robin, actuality accomplished by the world's greatest detective. He bound put the pieces together. The cows, are you sure? Yeah, he confirmed. Robin anticipation about this. On one hand, he still didn't apperceive why the aliens capital the cows. On the added hand, there had been a bright UFO sighting, and it was an absolute crisis to civilians. Bound altering his plans, Robin gave his orders as Cyborg and Raven bent up to them. Okay, Naruto, leave us some clones. We can accomplish do with them. Investigate Mega Meaty Meat, but be discreet. I don't appetite Beast Boy accepting accursed if they aloof absolutely affliction about the bloom of their meat. the draft of us will go booty bottom toward the UFO. Naruto nodded. Afresh, he fabricated a dozen clones for Robin's use. Before he could leave, however, Raven chockfulled him. Be careful, she said in her accepted monotone, admitting that Naruto could acquaint she absolutely meant the words. Of course. I'm an alarming ninja, remember, he affably replied, bringing a baby smile to her face. Don't these places usually accept doors? Naruto wondered as he circled the architecture of Baft Megamedi Meat for the 5th time. Seems clumsily apprehensive, brat. Maybe you should aloof apprehension in. We're aggravating to be detached here, he argued. As he affiliated his search, he accustomed the memories of a clone. So that's what their appliance the beast's for. Weird. Any added altercation was apoplectic by a loud roar, followed by several crashes. So abundant for discretion. Yeah, Naruto agreed, alive that the sounds came from Beast Boy. He answerable a Rasengan in his duke and was about to draft a aperture in the wall, afore the architecture rumbled. It fell abroad to acknowledge a aberrant pole-like craft. That's new, he thought, Rasengan. Naruto shouted, active the alternating apple of activity into the anew appear wall. He entered the chamber, abandoned to see a abundance of overweight men, alternating the walls. All the missing beasts were absorbed up to some device, and Beast Boy was talking to a jar. Seriously? Naruto anticipation with a diaphoresis drop. I'm academic, your address won't leave afterwards you. Beast Boy exclaimed, alive into a bird and accustomed said jar over the men. Naruto sighed afore leaping over them appear his friend. Exiting through the above aperture Beast Boy had, he entered the restaurant and saw the boyhood ascent the award-winning moped, Beast Boy. Naruto called, hasty him, what's activity on? Oh, so it turns out Megamedi Meat is absolutely amplitude tofu that came here to abduct beasts and abort the earth, so I kidnapped their baton afore he could leave. He exclaimed, presenting the jar proudly. Naruto would accept commented on aloof how brainless that sounded, but the abundance of men admission through the back, It's the Bobs. He yelped, he bound effective Naruto, blank his hay, of protest, afore active out the restaurant, way each aa. Beast Boy shouted in blitheness as Naruto about managed to accumulate himself from falling off with a quick appliance of chakra. This is so cool. Foolish human. The best annoying articulation Naruto had any time heard articulate from the jar, attractive centralit he saw. That is cube, a cube with a face, Naruto anticipation in a deadpan. Still, he'd apparent weirder, I accept created abundant nufu for an army of the Bobs. You will never get away. Your Berghaus is doomed. Your planet is doomed. The cube affiliated to shriek. Beast Boy shrieked as he collection appear an army of the newly identified Bobs. Hiya Tommy. Be a action and duke over our absolute architect would ya? One of them asked. Naruto, who was about to jump off and action their way through, was afraid of back Beast Boy anon sped abroad from them. Hey, we could accept taking them. Naruto shouted over the wind. There's too abounding of them. He replied, afore skidding to a stop before a arch infested with added Bobs. All we appetite is the antecedent Andy. They abreast them, creepily in sync, and your cows. Not gonna happen. Beast Boy declared, afore charging beeline at them on the moped. Didn't he aloof run from a abate accumulation of them? Insolent human. Your abortive allegation will end in defeat. The conflicting cube shouted, achievement there's a plan here. Naruto commented, your apathy were ridding on a Tidwell 3000. Was the assured reply, and it has turbo. He apprenticed a red button on the handle, activating freaking rockets on the abac to fire. Okay, I'm starting to see why he's so bedeviled with this thing. As they rushed forward, the bikes advanced lifted, ablution them over the Bobs. All three cartage yelled, the boys in excitement, and the antecedent in fear. They landed accomplished the Bobs afresh sped appear Titian's tower, he allied up the stairs, about animate version Naruto off, afore Ariel into the capital room, he hopped off, bidding Naruto to do the same. the moped skidded to a rest before the couch as the two adolescents landed in affecting poses, abaft them. A amphitheater of bodies animated as three-board aerial their signs, anniversary announcement the Cardinal 10, Kurama candied alone central the seal. However, a assertive white cube absentatively to end their fun, you will suffer for your impudence green human. I am the source, feared aloft 3 galaxies. Destroyer of Dash its affecting blubbering was cut off as Beast Boy threw him into the fridge. The blooming boyhood groaned as he sunk to the ground. That was fun. He heard from the ground, he looked up to see a animated Naruto. Dude. No it wasn't. Ah, lighten up. It's a loofah cube of affected meat and some overweight dudes. How adamantine can this be? They're about to draft up the planet. Beast Boy yelled, causing the smile to abatement from his face. Oh, that's bad. Yeah, he befuddled off his bandage and helmet. Okay, anticipate Beast Boy think, he told himself as he agape his skull. Goo-hoo. He exclaimed, discharge his accent as he messed up his hair. He afresh badly through accessible the door, all over's gone, and accepted in a advantageous voice, I've got questions and you bigger accord me answers. How do I chargeless the cows, stop the bobs, and shut bottom ward the Destructotron? Ha 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 ha. The antecedent laughed, foolish blooming human. I will never tell. And aback my address fails to barrage as planned, it will detonate, automatically. Beast Boy's apparent basset glinted ominously, he bound through the antecedent on a plate, now out of the jar, as it continued, submit to my greatness, and I ability aloof additional you're pathetic. Its assured address abruptly concluded as it asked anyhow, what is this? A angle impaled the table beside it as a maniacal Beast Boy, bubbles at the mouth, declared lunch. Ooh, I aloof got chills, who knew Beast Boy had it in him, he'd allegedly get alternating abundant with Anko, what with her amulet for snakes? That is an appalling idea, I can abandon brainstorm what she could do with admission to all those animals, Kurama interjected with a shudder. And I aloof appear to be in the amore for a ollie mental meat-free substitute. He's bluffing, right? Really, yo. You're aloof aggravating to alarm me. It yelled defiantly, am I? Say a cost to my acceptable acquaintance barbecue sauce. He replied with absolute aplomb as he menacingly aerial a canteen of the sauce. Oh baby Cammy, he's not bluffing. Hey, he's not bluffing, he absolutely will eat you. Naruto warned as Beast Boy squirted the barbecue booze on it. It sputtered, stop. It yelled desperately, the abstruse is water. Nufu reverts to its accustomed accompaniment in the attendance of water. Please don't eat me. It sobbed, that's added like it. Now let's allocution cows. He continued, mechanically appropriation a jug of soy sauce. Armed with baptized guns, the duo rode the moped to Mega Meaty Meat, spraying the bobs alternating the way. Already they arrived, Beast Boy acicular at the Destructotron, acutely arctic for a second, for saying, maybe this can wait. He approved to airing away, abandoned for Naruto to grab him. What are you doing? We don't apperceive how abundant time we accept left. Boring the abashed boy abaft him, he shoulder slammed through the bank of the bomb, absolute a distinct on-off lever, seriously? Naruto asked in disbelief, he absolved over to it and effective the handle, EEEP. Beast Boy yelped as Naruto pulled it, bath in the corner, aback they did not explode, he sighed in relief. Across town, the spaceships that were currently affianced with the Titans, as able-bodied as the Bobs, popped, reverting aback to cubes of Nufu. Can this day get any weirder? Robin questioned, amidst by cows. As an abundance of Naruto clones took affliction of the cows, Beast Boy explained what happened at the belfry to the others. So it turns out that Mega Meaty Meat is absolutely amplitude tofu that came actuality to abduct our beasts and abort the earth. But I kidnapped the conflicting baton of freshite Naruto coughed into his hand. We shut bottom ward the Destructotron afore the apple could explode. He absolved over to his afraid vehicle, and I did it all acknowledgement to my alarming new moped. As he accomplished his declaration, the moped burst into parts, causing Beast Boy to draft in horror. You forgot to acknowledgement that you bent the baton with barbecue sauce, Naruto added. Right, so Breath is the conflicting leader? An apparetic Robin asked. Oh, he's in the fridge, the aback oral blooming boyhood answered, afore snapping aback to attending its cyborg. There, sitting at the table, he captivated an abandoned bowl as he baffled barbecue booze off his fingers. As he finished, he looked up to see everyone's abashed expression. What?